Of course, the one thing is having the idea. The other thing is having the equipment, which I don't have. But anyway, let's try. And going here, walking here through the huge park, I was thinking about it. The name should be something like the Berlin Diaries, although I'm pretty sure it won't be Berlin Diaries. It will be a mix of impressions. I was thinking about it actually over the last couple of days already. Some people would say returning home. Leaving aside that I never lived in Berlin, even this country is not home. After 20 years, having lived abroad in different countries in different parts of the world, and still there is something that is known, that is familiar, that, well, you may say, that is me. When I went to town today and walked, then there was this big question: why? Big question for one person who could not understand what happened, and who can understand what really happened. He couldn't, she couldn't, and still this question, as individual as it is, it's a question that has a much broader meaning. And I was standing next to this place a couple of days before, asking as well why, although knowing exactly the answer. It was that place at the Landwehrkanal where some brutal murders took place many years ago, and still having their impact, having their meaning today. It was this place which we all should know, and this is part of this Germanness. At least some of us, my generation, would know. Having mentioned having the idea but not the equipment, was just about the Deutsche Reichstag, the parliament now, the imperial building which had been adopted. And these days I've been often thinking about this history, the German history, different to the imperial Roman history, or Italian, if you want. There is this manifestation of power in very different ways. And driving through Berlin now, the wide roads sometimes, it reminded me of one of the stories. It's like Pain by Alfred Döblin on the Alexander Square, where he has this extreme noise coming out of prison. And he craned his neck to look back at the red wall, but the tram rushed him away down the tracks, and he was left merely facing the general direction. The tram turned a corner, trees and buildings imposed themselves. The streets were full of bustle, Seestraße. People got on and off. something in him screamed, "Watch out, watch out." It's reminding these lines and this scene of being part of history and not knowing how to locate oneself. And this is, I think, the general question behind what I mentioned earlier, coming across this one place. The man lost his beloved, and a political movement lost their beloved. Is it right to say it's a kind of love, it's a kind of commitment in both cases, and not knowing the answer or knowing the answer, it is exactly about this power. This power which is always there, although it is there in very different ways. It is this manifestation of the power when we look at the Reichstag, the parliaments, supposedly the people's power. If I remember correctly, it is for the German people. It is not the power of the German people. And this is, if it's written down there, or if not, this is exactly the point. This power we face, it is a power we experience and we do experience, but it's not our power. And on the other hand, there is this power of being able to control. And in some strange way, this merged the other days when I drove down, imagine in Berlin, drove down the Siemensdamm through Siemensstadt. This is the hidden power, hidden at least to the tourists who come now to Berlin, who see the Brandenburger Tor, who see the Annex, who see the German Reichstag rebuilt, who hear the helicopters. They are for security reasons, for control, but who do not see the old Berlin with two features I experience permanently these days when I'm looking around, when I'm driving, as I said, the Siemensdamm from Spandau into the city. It is, in a way, daily power of the old industrializing German Empire, the German Reich, then Germany. And it is not visibly as such the military power as a Verwaltungsstaat, an administrative state with law, emphasis on law, with emphasis on order. They are merging together. It's completely different to the power experienced in Rome, where you have the belief system overall still, even if the church doesn't own the place anymore, even if the Vatican is a relatively small place, but it is still this Vatican, the old Roman Empire, by belief, by moral sentiment, if this is right to say, whereas Adam Smith coined this in a different way. But it is this kind of power that is prevailing there. And here it is the old power of the two kinds, the Dichter and Denker, the poets and thinkers, and the Richter and Henker, the judges and hangmen. They are going together, and it's permanently there. It's there in this manifestation of the early huge industry, for the time huge, not possible to imagine. Siemensstadt, Siemens City, the entire district. But it's not only Siemens there, it's as well other places or other enterprises like Osram. It's the old industrial power that made Germany what it is today. can we still, and should we say still, an imperial power? I'm not meaning imperialist, but I'm meaning this emphasis on a German identity, even pretending or not being generous and being welcoming nations when it came to the migrants. It had been about this showing power. Yes, we can. Yes, we may be actually the first nation competing with the superpower of the United States of North America. Competing and not cooperating, not really cooperating, and having a Mr. Schäuble as a pendant to Miss Merkel, extremely well playing this game of being generous and being in control of, not leaving others controlling their own situation. And this is a strange, I don't know how to say, image or impression of this state, which is obviously a police state, and obviously it is a police state of a very kind, supporting way. The welfare state. It is interesting in this context, one issue that is always forgotten or even not known. It's called the Bismarckian welfare state. I once went, I think it was in connection with my PhD, a little advertisement in between. The second edition is now being published these days. But anyway, it had been there when I looked at the welfare state, and when I came across something that is not known, widely not known, and would even be rejected. Bismarckian welfare state is not the Bismarckian welfare state, but it had been against his will, and it had been supported. The idea came from his foreign minister. No, sorry, not the foreign minister, but the minister for trade. Blitz, I think, was his name. Difficult to find the information today on the internet, even if the internet knows everything. I found it in a little brochure, which is actually published on the internet, and that that highlights this conflict between Bismarck and Blitz, between trade supporting a social system in terms of we need well-educated, healthy people, and we do not need a war-mongering Germany, as it had been the idea of Bismarck. Then, of course, being merged in the stick and carrot of the social system, social support, social welfare system, but the price being the stick, namely the Social Democratic Party being forbidden. It's difficult for me to think about it when teaching today on these issues, on history, on even contemporary issues, to think about it. What we are teaching is not this complex reality. It's not this complex reality in terms of concretization of the entire history in one or the other law, or you take it. It is an excerpt, it's a little picture which actually cuts off the reality and makes it manageable, if you want. It is manageable for a short time, and this was what actually they knew. It was only the combination of stick and carrot. It was a perfect integration of the two contradicting powers that made this, if you want, dialectically third one, the strong imperial power, a welfare state for its own people, highly exclusive, highly warmongering still. There had been 2 world wars emerging from these countries, from this country. Okay, it never comes from one country, it never comes from one person, but it is this constellation that was there and that is still there. Is there space for morals? Is there space for religion? I would be the last one probably to defend or claim it. But still, let's say, reformulate, is there space for contemplation, for a thorough dealing with conflicts as well? I have my doubts. Was it yesterday or the day before? One of the last days I was actually thinking about this constellation in a different context. Feeling in a way pleased by the sunshine, by the beauty of the environment near to the Charlottenburg Schloss, the palace, and just enjoying life after coming from an exhibition in one of the galleries, and then thinking about Büchner. Yes, there is this beauty, and it is a beauty that is there and remains there, which cannot be questioned. But still, to make it a real beauty for everybody, we have first the war against the palaces, and the peace to the huts, to integrate not only a system for the wealthy people, but to integrate it for the people. Now, in the background, the building, it's part of the Prime Ministry here in Germany. I think it's a stunning architecture, not just the building, but the entire concept. If you go there, you have this single strong building. I wouldn't say a fortress, but strong in this sense of overlooking the entire area. If you continue this line, it's straight on. You have the parliament, the new building of the new parliament, and it's straight on, and it shows where control is. And if you are looking at the architecture, you have a kind of channel. This is the power channel. It's open. It's actually, in a way, somewhat transparent, but at the same time it is this channel, meaning as well it is about channeling power. Only along this line power is allowed, and there is no real idea of what my generation had been involved in an extra parliamentary opposition, extra parliamentary power. It's something to explore every day new, with little things, and these little things making up history. There, Marx had been right. We are making history. We are all making history in our little small realms without being aware of it. But this is where history not only happens, but where it is made. Perhaps we can follow this up in the following days and weeks. It won't be about Berlin diaries, as I said early in the introduction. It will be about different ways of living in different power constellations, seeing people, observing, but as well co-living, living together in making history, trying to make history in this little way, little realms of where we can go and where we may go with this society, with these societies. And yes, there is this great claim with this universe.